Welcome to the Stock Unlock Clips channel. This channel is dedicated to pulling clips from our weekly live streams on the main Stock Unlock channel and posting them here so it's easy to find and access different talking points that we cover. Make sure to subscribe for more and come join the fun on our weekly live streams over at the Stock Unlock main YouTube channel every Saturday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. With that said, we really hope you enjoy this clip.
And I'm not trying to point fingers right now, by the way, but to invest in things that quote, you don't understand. And just to pick this apart a bit more, if you were to invest in a bakery shop that creates bagels, obviously this is a fake example, but it probably won't take someone too much time to understand how bagels are made, where they're sourced, what their competitors are, and to like really understand that business. I know you love Canadian railroad companies, so I think that's in that bucket too. But when we look at companies like Facebook or like Palantir, and maybe we'll have differing opinions here, even as someone who writes code for a living, and this applies to chip companies as well, I find it so hard to like really, truly understand all the dynamics that make those companies work, from the tech that they're building, the engineers they have to hire, technological advancements, and where things are going to be in 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I guess to simplify what you're saying is it's hard to understand those companies' moats.
Yes.
And I would agree with you. Like, as you know, someone like you're the super engineer. I don't know, I have trouble making links. that's my extent of, coding and whatnot. But so yeah, for me to understand, a company like Palantir, it's really challenging for me. And that's why, as you said, I love my Canadian railroad stocks because I understand those businesses. Goods got to get moved across Canada. Goods got to get moved across North America for the economy to work. The best way to do that is through rail. So as long as there's things moving around the economy, railroad companies are going to have business. And like in Canada, we have 2 railroads. That's it. We have 2. That's it. And for a new competitor to enter the Canadian railroad space, think about what they would have to do. They would have to build a rail network across the country that can compete with the 2 large companies. That would involve so much initial investment and no profits for so long, and you're competing against these 2 companies that have all the clients, all the customers. So in my opinion, there's no way that there's going to be another railroad company that enters Canada. There's going to be 2. There's always going to be 2 because there can't be 1. And that's it. So as long as goods are moving around the economy, those are the companies that are going to be there, and they're probably going to be there for another 100+ years. Very simple, right?
Did somebody say moat?
Exactly. Very simple, very large moat. Like when you talk about a moat, that is the largest moat I can think of is the Canadian railroad companies. That's it. Best moat I can think of.
Should we pull them up in Stock Unlock? I don't mind doing a screen share. So we had a Thomas Varnick ask, is there competition between them? So that's a good question to get into, between these 2 railroad companies. I'll also add another weird angle to this one too. I'm just going to play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
We're going into the year 2023.
Yep.
Railroad is a moat now, but when Amazon brings in drone fleets, or Tesla's Boring Company starts to figure out very quick, cheap ways to go underground, right? I think there is a futuristic kind of off angle you could take on this, where, hey, in 5 or 10 years, are railroads still going to have that moat? Are there not going to be other types of technology that go in and take that place?
I would always say yes. That is a risk, but I would say right now, at this moment, it's not a large enough risk for me to really consider. For example, just take a look at the sheer amount of goods that a train can move in one load. It's like hundreds of those massive railroad carts. I don't think a drone is going to be able to do that. I think drone is going to be able to, lift single packages from a warehouse to a building, because man, if a drone could carry as much as a train, that'd be a big freaking drone.
Think like do you know like those videos in like the desert where they show like the huge swarms of like the millions and millions of like the cockroaches or whatever? I'm thinking like of a million drone swarm, like a big Amazon army just kind of blackening the sky.
Jake, I don't think that's going to happen. Anyways, so to answer the question about competition between railroads, they're definitely competing for the business. Um, I'm going off memory here, but I think that Canadian Pacific is more prevalent on the west coast of Canada. Like Alberta and BC, for example. I don't see, like, just personally, I don't see too much CNR. I see a lot of CP trains out here, though, on the west. So I do
Interesting.
think I do think that they are competing for sure. They're definitely competing, but
Can we compare them in the Insights tab?
oh, absolutely, we can.
That sounds like, yeah, because we had Thomas Varnick asked about the competition. So I think comparing both of these companies side by side in Insights is going to be a good way to do that. Hello, Esteban. It's great to see you here. We really appreciate all your support across the Discord and everything. And Lincoln Woods, hello, welcome to the chat. Yes, caught up in MSO gang.
Yeah.
Right with you there, man.
Yeah.
For sure. But happy you found Daniel and also Stock and Lock, and we're forming a nice community over here. We're all learning together.
Absolutely. Okay, so before we get into the insights comparing CNR versus CP, CNR is on the left, CP is on the right. CP just did a massive acquisition. So when you go to their financial health and you see that the shares are increasing by 40%, this is because the company just did a very large acquisition and had to dilute to afford it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and I think a good note on that too is whenever you're viewing metrics too, one of the most fun things about investing is you can't really take things at face value, right? So on the surface, it is true. Usually that's bad, but then in this specific case, it makes sense because it's a merger. And those are some of the things that really opened up my eyes as you start to peel back more layers of the onion per se. And good morning from Brazil. Love to have you here. Good morning, Sophie. Another great supporter. Thank you so much for being here.
yeah. So exactly what you said. And that's why the stock unlock insights, like, this isn't meant to be a buy or a sell recommendation. It's just meant to highlight things that, investors should know about, care about, and maybe dig into more. Like, for example, right here, if you see that CP is increasing their share count by 39%, that's a very large amount in a year. So then you can go and be like, okay, why did that happen? Like, stock unlock shows you that happened, and then you can kind of dig into why is this happening? What are they doing there? But initially, shares increasing by 39%, that is bad. That's a lot. So it's good to know about. Anyways, these so these companies, in terms of profitability, CNR does look like they are more profitable, They got the higher free cash flow margin right now at 26%. That's a big cash flow margin.
I'm loving these. This is very good profitability. Wow.
Yeah, if you take a look at CP, free cash flow margin is not as high, cash conversion is not as high. So cash conversion, what that means is the net income or the earnings for the business, only 46% of it for CP is actual cash earnings. It's actual cash flow. So, and when you compare that to CNR, it's almost 80% of their earnings is actual cash flow. That's why that's very good.
And
In
one
terms
thing
of,
I've learned, just leaving on that for one more second, one thing I've learned about profitability, which is crazy, is a company doesn't need to be a 5 to be great. For example, Amazon has been reinvesting all their cash. So if you only analyze them from a profitability standpoint as a fundamentals investor, you might have said this company doesn't have good cash conversion, all that. But there's just so much more to the story. Thank you for letting me cut you off there.
Oh, absolutely, man. Anytime.
And a shout out
Sorry,
to the people in the chat. We got Dutch car videos. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support as well. We try to keep it super honest here. And Burton, it's great to meet you. We need maglev trains in Canada to fuel bombardier growth. Interesting. I'm not sure if you know about that, Daniel, but
actually, you know what? I don't know too much about maglev. I know that's a technology that they use over in Asia quite a bit, like high-speed trains, I believe. Which, by the way, why doesn't North America have more high-speed trains? It's really unfortunate.
Stuck in the past.
I know. Anyways, we're going to take a look at these two businesses' yield on cost because I think that this is a really cool metric for dividend growth investors. And let's just zoom out all the way to the year 2002. So right here, we can see that CNR's dividend yield on cost all the way back to 2002 is 27% versus CP's 13%. Now, what is interesting about these two companies, when I get asked about them, so if we head over here to CNR, This company has a dividend yield of 1.9%, okay? If we head over to CP, this company has a dividend yield of only 0.78%. So the main difference between CP and CNR, they're like the businesses have both been growing kind of similarly in terms of their fundamentals. CP is growing a little bit more quickly, but CNR pays out more of their cash flow as a dividend, and then CP, instead of paying out a dividend, they spend a lot more money on share buybacks. So for a dividend or an income investor who wants like dividends, income in their portfolio, dividend growth, I think CNR is the better stock for that. But if you're a growth investor, then I think CP is the better option because again, they spend more of their cash flow on buying back shares, which increases the share price more over time.
I have a question for you, Daniel, especially for our viewers here. A company can do share buybacks, meaning they're literally buying back shares. That's good because then you own more of the pie by not doing anything. Another way to give back to shareholders is by dividends, because obviously that's just direct cash to you. How do you think about those two and compare them? Because I find myself sometimes even confused of, are share buybacks better and are dividends better? And I don't think there's a clear answer. I'd love to, hear your thoughts on that.
I don't think it all depends on what your goal is as an investor. Like if you're a dividend investor who wants dividend income, then you probably will not prefer share buybacks because all a share buyback does is it puts upward pressure on the stock price by removing shares. So if you want income and dividend income in your portfolio, then share buybacks won't really achieve your goal. So as an investor, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what is your goal? Like, what do you want out of your portfolio? And that's why I say with CNR, if you're more of a dividend income investor, then CNR is probably the better option. Not financial advice, just my opinion. And because it pays a higher dividend and it has more dividend growth because that's where the company focuses its cash flow. Whereas CP, if you don't really care about dividend income and you just want more growth in your portfolio, then it focuses more of its cash flow on buying back shares and growing the stock price. So yeah, again, it just kind of depends on what your goal is in your portfolio. Although I will say that typically a lot of companies do share buybacks at times where the stock is like really high and you're not really getting, a great yield on those buybacks. So it that's my opinion. I don't know if that helps a lot.
I think that helps. And to do like a very quick summary, it's like it is hard to say what's better or worse, and it depends on what type of investor you are. Do you want the cash flow coming in from the investments, or do you care more about share appreciation?
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome.
And for myself, I hold all of my dividend stocks basically in tax deferred accounts, so I'm not taxed on the dividend income. If you're a dividend investor, that's definitely something you have to consider is you are being taxed on your dividends. And that's going to change from country to country. Here in Canada, I believe I got taxed something like 20% on my dividends last year. So I should say I would have been taxed because I'm in a tax deferred account on my dividends. But if I were taxed on my dividends, it would have been 20%. So my dividend income would have actually been lower because I'm paying tax on them. So that's also something you got to consider. You're not taxed on share buybacks. So a lot of investors do prefer buybacks because it's basically a tax-free return to you as the investor.
I love that. We like to avoid taxes, I guess, right?
That's right. Anyways, so I'm taking a look at CNR versus CP's share price since 2002 over the past 20 years. And you can see right here, CP has grown slightly faster over the past 20 years. What about over the past decade? Wow, CP's really grown faster over the past decade.
Huh.
Yeah. Over the past 5 years. Really, over the past 5 years, it's really grown faster. So, interesting.
Yeah, LBC if those lines start to cross a little bit over time.
They're only growing revenue slightly faster, though. CNR grew revenue faster over the past decade. Weird.
Yeah, we're getting some comments in the live too that they're definitely with agreement that there's a lot of growth out there, potentially even connecting all of North America, which Sounds like a pretty big moat to me. I mean, you move a lot of stuff around the continent.
Yeah, and I mean, we're like me just speculating right now. Speculation mode. Don't know what I'm talking about. Let's just whatever, right? It kind of seems like the world is going through this period where nations are starting to decouple from each other. Like we had a globalization, and now it kind of seems like we're having a little bit more deglobalization. And selfishly, as a Canadian, I think this is great for Canada because we have so much natural resources that right now a lot of other countries, like the United States, for example, they may be getting some natural resources from Asia or China. And then if they don't want to do as much business with those countries in the future, well, Canada's their next largest, well, yeah, one of their largest trading partners. So they may get more resources from Canada, which would be a good thing for our railroads.